questions. I'll be, if you want to go live right now on Facebook and ask questions, I'll also ask them those questions as well. But just introduce yourself real quick, and I'll ask the first question. So go ahead. Heather, we'll start with you.
Hi, I'm Heather Olson. That's all. Is there anything else I need to introduce?
You just love music?
I do. I am a music appreciator. I have a guitar, and I can pick out notes on a piano, but that's kind of it.
Pitch perfect?
No.
Brandon?
Well, I'm Brandon Mackie. Yeah, I'm just kind of like a music guy too. I do worship here from time to time, and yeah.
Nice.
Well, I'm David Diaz. I lead worship at this church, and I like music.
Okay.
That is, yeah.
The first question that I want to ask is to you, David, and this is for the viewers at home. You know, you're a Christian. You listen to all types of music. What do you say to someone when they ask you about maybe music that is considered secular and that you are listening to? What is your response to that?
I think there's a certain audience to answer this question to. So when I answer this, I want to answer this to the people that aren't going into this with a negative preconceived notion. And I'll go ahead and say, like, I listen to a ton of worship music. I also listen to music that's not worship, which I would say anything that is not worship, I would say is secular. So I listen to both, and I honestly, not to hyper spiritualize the question, but I think it's a healthy thing as believers that we question. I don't know, we can all probably quote the song "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey. Yep. Yeah, so I'd say, okay, what scriptures can you also recite by memory? Or what worship songs could you recite by memory? And I just think that what we put in is, there's something about it. We memorize the things that we hear. We memorize movies and movie lines. We memorize titles, lyrics to songs. And so I would just say that we need to be very aware of music is actually this like huge tool, I think, that the world uses. I also think that God uses it. And so I think that the more good that you can put into yourself, I think the better. But I also think on the flip side, like, one of my favorite things to listen to is, I'm going to like a Hawaiian reggae kick. And it's because I'm stuck at home or come to the church for work, and I do nothing else. And I'm not like a movie fanatic. I'm like, all I watch is Grey's Anatomy. It's a good thing there's like 20 seasons out there. But all I do is I listen to music, and when I do, I recognize that there has to be, like, I have a scheduled chunk of time in my day where I'm intentional about my time with Jesus, and that's devotionals, and that's prayer, and that's journaling and reading scripture, but it's also just listening to worship music. And sometimes it's for me to worship, or sometimes I just hit play and I just let it kind of play over me. And it's just so good for the heart and the soul, I believe. But I think on the flip side, I think it's a matter of just being intentional. I think I also like country music. And I also listen to KNKX, and it's jazz. And so for as much as I listen to that stuff, I make sure that I'm also putting good in. I also make sure that I'm careful with, like, if I'm listening to a ton of things talking about that, just what is music about a lot today? It's drugs, sex, alcohol, all those things. Like, I need to be aware of what I'm listening to, because that stuff does, whether we recognize it or not, like, ingrain itself into our minds. And I think we need to keep our minds healthy and pure. So,
Sounds good, man. The first question is for all of you. So, Heather, who's your favorite artist?
My favorite artist, I have a lot, but if I had to pick, it would be Tyrone Wells. And actually, Gabe Wall, if you listen to Tyrone Wells' album Snapshot, he's playing cello on that album. Our own Gabriel Wall. That's pretty rad.
modern day Renaissance man.
Modern day Renaissance, yeah. But no, Tyrone is just somebody I've always really appreciated and looked up to. And really quick story, 10 years ago, I got laid off, and I was really freaking out, and I went to one of his shows, and I was running their merch table. And after the show, I was talking to him, and he asked, how everybody was doing, how Jeremy was doing, how's work, all that. And I told him, well, I'm kind of freaking out because I don't have a job anymore. And he grabs me by the shoulders and was just like, Heather, you know God's got this, right? And that just has always stuck with me because Tyrone doesn't, he's not under like a Christian label or anything like that. He absolutely loves Jesus. He's a minister's son. You go to his concerts, you basically go to church. But he just, said what was on his mind to some person. Like, he didn't hold back his love for God because he was at work. And I just thought that was really cool. And that's kind of how I am, trying to live my life too, to not be afraid of what somebody might say or might think because I love Jesus or anything like that. So yeah, he's just always had super special place in my heart. Gone to way more concerts of his than anybody else.
Nice. Brandon?
I would probably say my top is a band called Mute Math.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently Chris Boone's heard of them. Probably nobody else.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, yeah. They're like this kind of weird, like, they're like in their prime in like 2005, maybe. Like kind of 2000s, like post-Christian rock, like vaguely Christian rock, I guess you'd say. Like they're hardly a Christian band by any means. But, yeah, I just kind of like stumbled upon them quite a while ago, and I don't know, they're just very unique, and I kind of like just got like a little too into them probably. And like I don't know, they just are like, they've impacted like my music and like my outlook on music and kind of like secular music, if you will, because they came out of kind of a, like they were in their mind like kind of marketed as a Christian band for a while, but like didn't want to be marketed as a Christian band. It was kind of that like early 2000s time when like people were like figuring out that like you can be Christians in a band and like not make worship music essentially. Yeah. And so like, I don't know, that like I think music is broken out of that like a little bit, but they were like definitely one of those bands that was kind of pioneering that and like taking a lot of the downfall, I would say, of that, of like backlash of like Christian communities, and whatever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, they've been really uniquely inspiring to me for a lot of years, and they're disbanded now, so that whatever. But yeah,
David.
I'm that guy that like just is listening to Spotify and just hits next until something just feels good. So I couldn't say one.
Who your favorite artist is? Because you gave me a
Keith
favorite
Urban.
artist.
The guy's a genius.
You said Keith Urban.
Huh?
Keith Urban.
Yeah.
Yeah. The guy who was in The Blind Side? That's all I know about him. He was in The Blind Side.
He was?
Movie. Yeah. Yeah.
I was like checking my notes, make sure I said that right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a genius. Like ridiculous guitar player. Like can write songs like none other, dude. The guy's crazy.
That's awesome.
Crazy good.
My favorite is Dave Grohl. For so many different reasons. And this is the only thing I'll be able to contribute because, like I said, music is out of my depth. But Dave Grohl, just the musician that he is, he can play like anything. He's been a part of like 3 very big bands in multiple different ways, either being the lead guitarist or being the leader of the band or the drummer. And I don't know if you've heard Play by Dave Grohl, but it's just him playing instruments and putting them all together. He doesn't sing on it. He's just playing. And he's playing for like 30 minutes straight on this thing, and it's pretty amazing. So, Dave Grohl, definitely. Favorite album? Heather, talk about your favorite album, because I've never heard of this ever. And so, yeah.
Well, again, I have a lot, but Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, you've never heard that?
That's what you put as your favorite album?
There's a few. That is one of my absolute all-time favorites. I had the 2 cassette set.
Yeah, I've heard that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
what
the
are
other
those?
stop it. The other one is Arcade Fire, Neon Bible. I told Chris I cannot listen to it without feeling like I'm going to throw up, though. And that is the worst because I absolutely love that album. But I listened to it day in and day out when I was pregnant with Hendrix. And so every time I hear any song on that album, it just starts to well up. Like I feel like I am going to lose it. And so it's really sad because I love that album and I love listening to it. And I was so happy a few weeks ago because I heard one song and was like, okay, I can do this. And like just, was steeling myself to make sure that I don't throw up. And anyway, that's, yes. So Arcade Fire, Neon Bible, really anything by Arcade Fire is awesome. And there's like a bajillion people in the band. So, yeah.
Brandon?
Can stay consistent. Mute Math's third album, Odd Soul, is probably my favorite of all time. It's like, it's kind of like, it's just, Mute Math is hard to describe. They're just like, it's kind of weird, like psychedelic, like blues rock, kind of like you can't really understand anything he's saying the whole time, and it's just like, it's fun. It's just like, it's just a good vibe. Like I heard it in a coffee shop, and like this guy played it for me, and it's just like he was into it, and then it's infectious. Like I don't know, it always takes me back to like when I first heard it. I mean it's just like that prime time in middle school when you're like you're like, oh, I like like you're like,
I lived my prime in middle school.
yeah, you're like, you're in your prime, and you're like, you're into music for like on your own for the first time. And you're like, I like this band because I like it, and like that was Mute Math. I was like, this album, and it's great. It's a great album.
I was listening to Gangster's Paradise in middle
In
school.
middle school? Yeah.
Oh,
Would
yeah.
you say that's your
Like,
prime though?
That was like my
Sir
song,
Mix-a-Lot.
Gangster's Paradise. I can quote that whole song for you. I know, it's really weird.
Okay,
I grew
if
up
a-
in Stockton.
Like if a band makes it past middle school and it's still good, that's special.
Yeah.
That's special.
Wait till high school. Wait till you graduate high school, then it's just all after that. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, David, your favorite?
Let me look. Oh, the album "More" by Jeremy Riddle is like just insane. It's one of the most worshipful things that I've ever heard in my life, and then it's also like such a jam. I literally played that album on repeat my entire drive to Whistler and back like a year or two ago. It seriously was like, yeah. Enough said.
Okay, I want to talk about first concerts for a second because I don't know if this helped you to appreciate music more of like, oh, man, and this is what I want to do, or I want to listen to music for the rest of my life. But, David, your first concert.
Okay, so Chris sent us these questions
No, go ahead.
ahead of time, and I just, all my answers I felt like were so spiritual. And then I got to this one, and I was like, yikes. My first concert was Flo Rida. So I heard they're putting up photos. I don't know how you found one that's like, okay to
it
put
took
up.
a while.
I couldn't tell you why. Couldn't tell you.
How old were you?
I was in like junior high.
Oh, okay.
Prime time. Yeah. I don't know what I feel like there isn't anything else I can say that would be appropriate.
Did you go with friends?
I did. I
Yeah.
went with my school friends, and we made it back home after,
Yeah.
and I was traumatized. I would go. Yeah. Don't want to see. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all.
That's all
I
you're
can
going to say about that, no?
That's it. Yeah.
Keeping it G-rated.
Yeah. Heather?
My first concert, I was in first or second grade, and it was DC Talk opening for Michael W. Smith. Long time ago. But that, I had heard DC Talk before. Surprisingly, I had not heard Michael W. Smith before, but my parents loved him, and so they were like, let's go. But I just remember walking away from that concert thinking, like, DC Talk is my jam. And I listened to them forever. I still, I have Jesus Freak on, you guys know Jesus Freak? On my iPod, because I still have an iPod,
What's an iPod?
that is connected in my car. And every now and then, songs from that glorious album will pop up, and I know every single word, and I'll sing at the top of my lungs. And it's just, I love them. I love them.
Yeah, I got to see DC Talk open for Carmen. That was my first
Yes.
concert, and I was a huge Carmen fan. I barely knew anything about DC Talk except for that they had that song with Carmen, "Addicted to Jesus." And I remember I'm like saying every single word. I'm like 9 years old, just like singing every single word. And there was another like girl next to me, and she was singing, and I was like, "This is the best. I'm at like the best concert ever. We're both singing Christian songs, and yeah, it was ridiculous. That was my first concert ever. Yeah.
If you haven't been to a Carmen concert,
Yeah.
kids, I mean, I wouldn't go now, but
Yeah, no.
back in the day, that was just such a great memory, driving down to the Tacoma Dome and staying out way past bedtime to go see Carmen do Champion. Look that up on YouTube because that will give you nightmares. And Addicted to Jesus, Riot, like just all these amazing, just bringing back memories, all these amazing songs. Yeah, you should definitely look up Carmen on YouTube. If you don't know who that is, it's Carman. So look him up.
Yeah. Brandon.
Your answer, dude.
Yeah.
It's not great. I think, okay, that like I had definitely been to a few of those. So I think it was honestly Chris Tomlin at Overlake. I think that was actually because that was like that's the earliest I can remember.
What year was that?
Oh, I was in probably like 3rd or 4th grade.
Was it for like
so
this worship conference type thing?
Probably.
Yeah, I was there at that one. Yeah.
Destiny.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
We were at the same place at the same time.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
crazy.
a big church.
5,000.
Big place.
543 chairs.
That's right. Exactly.
I was on the intern exam.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. What was your favorite album that was released last year? Just curious. David.
Let me look at my notes. Victory by Bethel. So good.
What was your favorite song on that album that people...
Oh, man. Raise a Hallelujah. Victory's yours. Ain't No Grave. I don't know. Half the songs we do at the church. But it's just a great one. It's a great one. It's my favorite album, not just because I love the music on it, but there's nothing there's nothing that bothers me more about albums than when I only like one song on the album, because I want to listen to the whole thing. And I feel like that album I can actually like listen through, and I feel like it's kind of a journey, not only spiritually but musically. So, yeah.
That's a reason why I like soundtracks growing up, is because it was hard. 4 CDs that I would listen to. CDs, kids, are they're after tapes. They're circular. You put them in like a DVD, but they played music instead of watching
That's
something.
weird. I feel like I've seen
Yeah,
those
it's
on
crazy.
the walls.
Yeah. People use them as decorative art now, but that's why I listen to soundtracks, because I would just get bored. You know, there are 3 songs on a CD that I would like, or a whole bunch of songs on a soundtrack. Brandon.
I would probably say, honestly, when you asked it, I was thinking worship album. I would probably say that for worship album, but my actual answer was this album called Insecurity by a band called Convid Bonfires, which is me and Nolan got connected to them through the coffee shop we work at. They're kind of like this, I don't know how I would describe them. Like, they have like folk roots. They're this couple of guys that like started a house church a few years ago that like eventually disbanded, and they met on like this year-long global like missions tour or something like that. So they've kind of been everywhere and seen everything, and like they just write really interesting songs. Kind of same deal of like it's like, it's not worship music by any means, but it's like Christian root for sure. Like these guys are, I mean, we spent a lot of time with them. Like they're really, really genuine dudes, and like, yeah, make really great music. So
Cool.
Yeah.
Heather?
This may make me basic, but I don't care. Lover by Taylor Swift, I think is awesome.
Yes.
I love that album. Honestly, everything that she's put out since 1989 it's just great. I feel like that's when we finally like figured out, or Taylor finally, we're first name basis. When Taylor figured out who she really is, and you know where where she shines musically. And I love this last album. I think I had it on every day, all day for probably a month straight, and almost went and bought the CD.
No. Yeah.
But I just listen on Spotify because that's better, easier. But also, she has a documentary on Netflix, Miss Americana, that my friend Lana Wilson is the director for. And
cool.
she actually got to spend the last year with Taylor and like understand her better. Because I think a lot of people look at Taylor Swift as still, auto-tuned, not that great. And she's awesome. And I really love her music. I love her. Like I said, we're besties. We're real close. We would be. I mean, I'm not like swim fan or anything, but I think we'd be besties.
I want to clarify real quick. She said since 1989, which is her album, not she wasn't making music when she was 2. So
Right.
yeah, it just wanted to clarify for those of you that don't know about T Swift. So
Can I add something real quick?
yeah, go ahead.
Just saying, we're making fun of CDs, but CDs actually sound like if you want great quality audio, put a CD in and hit play. It sounds so much better than Bluetooth.
So much better.
But thank God for Bluetooth.
So much better than streaming.
Enough said.
Yeah. Who is an artist that you are listening to that probably other people don't know, kind of an unknown that they should be listening to? This is more for me than anything because, I mean, I'm still listening to stuff from the 90s, which I love.
There's nothing wrong with that.
But I couldn't tell you a CD that came out last year because I'm still listening to old stuff. If One Republic doesn't come out with it, I don't typically listen to it. So, yeah. So, who's someone that we should be listening to? Let's start with you, Brandon.
I mean, I got to shout out those guys. I was just talking about Comet Bonfires, but there's a couple of bands. We recently got connected to one of them. There's kind of like this community of like bands that all know each other down in like Southern California. There's this group we just like got connected over Instagram. It's this group called Beach Chapel, and they're honestly making like, they only have like 4 songs out right now, 4 singles, but they're making like some really, really interesting music that I've not heard anything quite like it before. And then I think a friend of theirs too, Taylor Armstrong, is making like very much like pretty obviously Christian music, but again, not like traditional worship. Yeah, really interesting stuff. So I would definitely, those 2 guys for sure.
David?
Also, when Brandon was saying we, he meant his band, Several Other Ghosts. Check them out on all music platforms. They're actually so good. But I'm going to throw out some like worship artists just because in this season, if you need encouragement, just play Jeremy Riddle. He's literally, if I could ask Jeremy Riddle to be my worship mentor, I would. But I can't. I mean, I probably could, but
He's probably watching right now.
Jeremy, hit me up if you're watching. Cody Carnes, Corey Osbury, those guys. They're like bigger names now, but they do a lot of stuff with other like ministries like Passion or Elevation, but they also do their own thing. Like Corey Osbury is a pastor at a church that's actually like, it's like a church like ours. Like he still travels with these big bands, and so they're putting out albums on their own that are super great, and not all those songs blow up, but they're just really, really good and super encouraging. Natalie Grant just put out a song. Oh man, what's it called? What's it called? My Weapon. My Weapon by Natalie Grant is insane, and she is incredible. And she's been around. She's been making music for as long as I've been alive. I feel like
Forever.
She is so talented and crazy relevant. And then some just bands that aren't known. Vertical Worship and Red Rocks Worship. Those are 2 go-tos of like, I need something that's different, change it up. I listen to them. So.
No, that's awesome that you said Natalie Grant. I didn't expect that to come out of your mouth. So I was like, Flo Brighter, Natalie Grant, Keith Urban.
They're all
3
legends.
I did not expect you to say. Natalie Grant, who is amazing, amazing, super talented. Heather.
I also have really been loving Red Rocks Worship. So good. 2 songs on repeat in our house are Breakthrough and 56. And was driving home from work one day and heard 56 on Spotify and I had to pull over because I was crying. So good. A local church, Reach Church, they're just right down in Kirkland. They put out a worship album a couple weeks ago that is also incredible. My friend Vanessa and her husband Tim have a band called Gambler and Thief, and they literally just like on Friday released an album which you can find on Spotify. If you like more folksy or like Civil Wars feel, that's definitely what their sound is. And then I don't know if he's unknown or not widely known, but I love Ben Rector. Also Andy Davis and Matt Wirtz, they're both out of like the Nashville scene. I could go on, but I think I'll stop there.
Yeah. No, awesome. Thank you. I can't wait to put new music in my Spotify. Last question is for David. We'll end it with this. How do you pick worship songs on Sunday? You're a worship pastor here, and so how do you pick songs on Sunday? Kind of go through that with us for a sec.
Yeah, it's kind of a two-part answer. How do we pick songs? It's literally like I go to my text message thread with Di Beals, and I click on the links section where it isolates just YouTube links to worship songs, and just we are constantly sharing songs. Also, shout out to people like Pat Bjorklund and Brett Allen. They're both on the team. Pat's our music director. We're always just sending each other songs. So that's like how I find that. I mean, I listen to stuff, and things just pop up. And I've just kind of told myself, I'm like crazy picky, but I've just realized it's okay for me to be picky. It's not okay for me to like not listen to something. Mm-hmm. And so I've challenged myself to actually listen. And then I just put myself in the shoes of not so much the leading and how something might feel in the room, but how would I want to be led? And so that's a lot of just trying to figure out, okay, where are people coming from?
Yep.
What are, like right now, we're in quarantine and all the different emotions and things that come with that. And there are people that are doing well, and there's people that are struggling. So just realizing the season that our church is in, and then putting together kind of a journey week in and week out that leads people to a place of being invited to a place of worship, to really encountering the Holy Spirit, and kind of ending with a kind of a declarative message of God is faithful, God is good, And so there's nothing more powerful than us proclaiming truth. And so I think it's super easy to do it through music.
It's really good. Thank you. Thank you to all of you for being a part of this panel. Next week, we're going to talk to Pastor Jeremy and to Gabe, our creative director. We're going to talk about tech gone wrong and what it's like to be behind the scenes. It's going to be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss it. So we'll see you at 3 next week for our panel venture. Thank you.